Welcome! Today we are going together explore the fundamentals of CloverDX Wrangler. We will be walking through creating a report, showing you how each step in the data management process operates, making sure you grasp the essentials and get comfortable using the platform. Let's start our exploration. When you log in for the first time, there is not much. Let's start with creating the job. Each job consists of three main phases: source, transformation, and target. We have concept of reusable my sources, my targets, and how to get these is simply you can either upload the file or get prepared data source from data catalog. Let's check this first. Here is the list of prepared data catalogs, which are different data sources. It can be data from CRM, from different databases, REST APIs, simply prepared and trusted by your IT department. You can search across the data catalogs looking for the specific keywords. In our case, we will be using the two data sources prepared for the online store contacts and orders. As a first step, we will be adding online store contacts into my sources so we can use them later. Each data source from the data catalog can have optional parameters prepared by the creator of the source or target to customize it, but in our case we are good to go. So add to my sources, and with online store orders, as we are going to use them as the main data source, and we can export the data here, we can look at the columns with their description to make sure that this is exactly what we want. We are going to use them directly in the new job as a main source for the job. We will call the job last orders. So next, again, fill the parameters when adding it into the my sources. We are okay with that for now. Create the job. And here we are in the job. In the main area, in the gate, we can see the preview of our data up to first 1000 records. On the right side here, we can see the steps of what's going on with our data transformation when we hit the run button and what should be applied to the full data set. Right now there is just reading and the writing, but you can add the steps with the transformation here. You can add them also over here with the icons like filter, lookup, and so on. Furthermore, you can search here over the columns, so like over. And when we are talking about the columns, when you go over it, you can see the technical fields and the full name, if it's hidden because of the small size of the monitor. And selecting the column, you can also choose some of the actions. So for example, here we can delete the column, override the link address. You can see that it's displayed in the steps here. With the steps, what you can do, you can also like edit them, disable, duplicate, and so on. So let's try to edit the one. And instead of just deleting one override column, let's delete both of them like this. Save. Now we don't have any data because we are searching for these, so let's delete the search. And here we are with the first step. Our next step will be filter the data. Here we have orders. So let's say that we want to keep just the orders from 2023 and onwards. For that, I will be adding the step filter based on the formula. Here I have two options of actions: keep rows, remove rows of the records which pass the condition driven by formula. About the formula itself, it's simple expression. Here you can see some examples. For example, that column number is greater or equal 100. And you can see here that we are introducing the columns with the $sign. Here in the main area, you can always go control space for auto completion, or dollar, and it will offer it to you on your own. And order the date time, we can always confirm the name of the right column here, that order date time, it fits. And then it will be greater or equal for the comparison. And to write down the time, we will be using simple 2023, the 1st of January. And that should be it. Once I'm happy, I can always go and add steps. And here we can see that the records are filtered out to just 48 rows out of original. The next part is about adding the new column, calculating its value. For that, we will use the calculate formula step. So add step, calculate formula, and it's similar as with the filter. Here is the formula, but this time it's not about true or false, pass or not pass the condition, but creating the expression. Here is a short description how you can do it using the existing columns or functions, which is the one which you are going to do. Then you need to decide if you want to override existing column or create a new column with the newly calculated value. So what we are going to do actually is creating the number of the days since order. For that, we will be using the date diff function. So date diff, which has 3 parameters. The first one is the day, which is another function which is returning the current date time. The next parameter is the one which we are going to calculate the difference from. In our case, it will be order, so control space, order date time. Let's use autocomplete as much as possible. And the last parameter is the unit, time unit, which we want the difference. You can want the difference in the seconds, minutes. To make our life easier, we will be using the day. So that should be it. Calculate formula is quite powerful tool, which will allow you to use a lot of functions and really play with your data. For more information, please visit our documentation. Right now, we will just add step. And here we are, days since order. In the next step, we will be adding the new data source using the lookup. So for example, up here. Lookup is for the merging of 2 different data sources, which should be prepared in my sources. So that's the reason why we added the my contacts at the beginning. Of course, you can go always back to the my sources and edit through the time, but this way it's easier. So choose the data source. Then you need to define lookup key mapping, which is basically the join key, matching columns between the 2 data sets. So it would be customer ID and contact ID. You can add another columns if it's needed, but not in our case. That should be enough. The final step, you need to decide which columns from that additional source of data you want to add. Either all columns, or you can be a little bit more selective. So for example, the first name, and let's filter it out, last name as well. Add step, and the new columns are added to the end. As a next step, let's back this calculate formula one more time and create new column out of first name and the last name. So add step, calculate formula, and we will be creating the full name, which will be in a form last name, comma, space, first name. So control space, last name, And in case that we want to concatenate two strings, we can just use plus sign, and adding the comma space as a text, as a string in between, we need to put it into the quotes. So it will be comma space, another plus, control space for autocomplete, first name, and that should be it. Add step. Name. As we created the new column at the end, let's check how we can reorder the columns, which is another step. Reorder columns, and let's say that we want to push name all the way to the beginning. The same thing with the days since order, in a form that it will be named, then days since order, time, and so on. That should be it. Add step, and name is at the beginning. Once we have it in this form, let's use another quite common operation with data, sort it. So add step, sort. First would be name alphabetically, and we will use the secondary column, days since ordered, largest to smallest. Add step, and here our data is sorted. As the last step before we will start producing the output report, let's do some data validation. Here we can see that the billing addresses are quite empty, which doesn't look so good. So let's check our validation options. Here are a lot of data quality steps. In our case, we will be using validate if not empty to mark specific columns and rows as an error if they will contain the invalid value. So let's use the filter, and let's say billing state address and postal code, and value cannot be empty. That sounds good. Add step, and we can see that we have a lot of errors here. We can either handle them with additional error handling steps, or we can explore what will happen if we will try to produce the output. So select the run, check data source, data target, CSV file by default, run and write. It will push me into the My Jobs overview page, where is the list of all of my jobs. As it is the first one, there is just one, and we can see that now we are finished the run. I can download the results, 81 rows, which was written out of 10,000, which is way more than the original 1,000 preview. And we can also see here that there were some rejected rows. Rejected rows are those which contains the errors. I can see there some basic statistics, so we can see that these 786 was rejected because of the validation step. Here we can see statistics that it's like 393 rows. And I can also download reject file, result file to explore and see what's wrong there, fix it, and then go back. But for now, let's not worry about these errors, and let's try to write it down into the database, which is prepared as a target in the data catalog as orders DB. So add to my targets to be able to reuse it. Then let's go back to the jobs. Here we can edit it. Select the target, and instead of the CSV file, let's choose from here from the orders database. Here you can see the structure which is expected on the output. Change data target. And as now there is expected structure, there is one additional step mapping. So let's select it. We can see that there is 0 out of 13 targets column mapped. And in this mode, I need to basically match my data onto the target structure. There are two types of the columns, optional and required. I can do it either with the drag and dropping like this. And here you can see that there can be even the errors like data types not match. Or let's unmap it and let Wrangler to do the job with the auto mapping. If the name of the columns are similar and data types match, Wrangler is usually able to map the majority of your data, and you then need to drag and drop just the remaining columns. Here, as we can see, it was able to match everything. So we are done. I can close it. And as now I'm not writing just to the file, but to the specific data target, I have two options of run. The first one is test run, when all the data transformations are applied not on the preview of the data, but on the whole data set, and not written into the target. So let's try it. It will go back to the job overview page. Here you can see that there is the test running. I was able to read 10,000 records again, expected number of the rejects, 81 rows passed the test run, which seems okay. And now I can just simply select run and do the proper production run of my report. And that should be it. Here I can just confirm if I want to run it with the predefined data sources, or I want to use another one or upload the new fresh data if necessary, and run and write. And that will be the production run. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, and congratulations, we were able to finish our first job.